All right, welcome to another episode of Inside IALR. Thanks for joining us today. So we have done a lot of episodes that involve ATDM, our Accelerated Training in Defense Manufacturing program. We've done a lot of episodes that involve that program one way or another, and here we are with another episode that involves ATDM. So we have, I think, a pretty cool story that we have two instructors in the additive manufacturing program for ATDM that are actually graduates of ATDM. So they went through the program, went out in industry, have come back and worked their way up and are now instructing students coming through. We have Daniel Hyler and Tim Holland, who are both additive manufacturing instructors. So thank you guys for being here.
It's good to be here.
Tell me about how kind of you ended up in the ATDM program to begin with, and kind of what were your takeaways from that?
Well, I had the wonderful pleasure of being part of the very first CNC program for ATDM. I was just fresh out of high school. I'd actually graduated on a Friday. I got a call on Saturday that there was this program from a employee within ATDM, and they reached out and said there was an open slot. So I decided I'd sign up, and I started class on Monday. And then also the pleasure of being part of the first additive class for ATDM shortly after the CNC program was completed. So it was a wonderful program.
You have to tell how you went through it twice. That seems worth sharing.
Well, truthfully, it was before policies were set in place. So I don't know if we should go too much in detail on that.
But you worked? It was for Fast Tech. Yes. You through it, right?
Yes. So after completing the CNC program, a local business, actually on site here at IALR, Fast Tech, they took me on as kind of an intern to begin with. And I moved into an official part-time job, and then they actually sponsored for me to go into the additive program with ATDM. I went through the ATDM program during the mornings, and then went back to work, basically a full-time job at nights with Fast Tech. And at the completion of the additive course, I went on to being kind of the lead additive engineer, kind of on site for certain machines that were at Fast Tech. And I stayed there for approximately 8 months later before coming back onto the ATDM team.
Nice. And what about you, Tim?
I initially came here, I was industry sponsored. At the time, I was working as a machinist for Norfolk Naval Shipyard out in Norfolk. They pretty regularly send a few of their either machinists or their apprentices out here to get further training, especially on the CNC machines. So they sent me out here to get trained. Absolutely fell in love with Danville while I was out here. I love the nice small town feel of it, but it's still a big enough town that you can still do all the things you really want to do. So went through the CNC program here at ATDM. I was part of the 5th cohort through that program, and went back to the shipyard after, but decided I wanted to come back here after a little while because I enjoyed the area, I enjoyed the program and what we do here, and feel it gave me some more opportunities.
And both of you guys started as technicians in the program and then worked your way up to instructors. That's correct?
Yes, correct.
And both of you guys recently became instructors?
So I'm in a little interesting situation. After being a technician for the ATDM additive course for about a year, I actually stepped out of ATDM for another program here at IALR, the NASAM program. And I was doing that for about 10, 11 months, and then ended up taking a position as the ATDM additive instructor.
And for those who don't know, NASAM is also additive manufacturing, just for active duty Navy personnel. So still teaching additive, just changed audience.
Right, correct.
So what kind of were as you guys were going through the ATDM program, kind of what were your takeaways? And I know you went through twice, Daniel, but specifically on the additive side, what were kind of your big takeaways from the program? What were wait, you just said you went through CNC.
Yeah, I went through CNC
That's
as
wild.
a student.
Neither of you went through ATDM you didn't go through ATDM as additive.
Nope. So for me, it was additive. Well, 3D printing has been a huge hobby of mine for well over a decade. And so, when Daniel actually transferred over to NASAM to be the instructor there. That opened up a technician spot in Additive. I went into our boss's office with a whole bunch of stuff that I'd printed out from home and was like, I want to transfer over because CNC is where my resume is at, where my experience is at, but Additive is where my passion is at. And he let me have the opportunity to go over. I went over at first on just kind of a trial basis to see how things went. I went over to Additive, working with the instructor at the time, Eric, and he gave me the thumbs up and said, "Yeah, I got my new technician." So stayed there until he decided to move up and move out and get on to his own thing. And so the Institute bumped me up to instructor as well. So that's how we have two of us now.
Yeah, that's really cool. What were kind of the things that you learned while you were in the ATDM program, whether it be in the CNC machining or the additive track, that kind of influence how you now teach the program?
I think the main thing that I took away was the computer-aided design, the CAD training that was part of that. So all of the ATDM students in the additive course, they learn a program called Fusion 360. It allows you to produce in the computer anything that you could imagine. And that was a big help when moving into the industry position that I was in, and then also going in further to teach that. That training was instrumental to the progression that I've made.
To piggyback off of what Daniel said, because I agree 100%, the CAD software, learning that has been huge, especially for the time that, after I graduated, because the CNC instructor let us get into Fusion a little bit and dabble with not just design, but also the CAM side, the computer-aided machining side of Fusion 360. And when I was able to go back to Norfolk Naval, I was able to utilize that a bit, which was huge for me. There's been many times where I'm trying to just even visualize something myself, and I have to go running over to my laptop, open up Fusion just so I can actually put it in there and be able to see it better on the screen than it is in my own imagination. Past that, the other thing that I really enjoyed about my time as a student here was how much the training really tries to align itself to realistic expectations of what life is like outside of the training environment in an actual shop environment. The students we're expected to clock in and out on time. They actually hold you to your attendance here. You have to wear all the proper safety gear. You have to check tools in and out. Everything that is normal in a regular shop environment. So that way, hopefully, the transition for somebody who's coming in who isn't industry sponsored and doesn't know what life is like in a shop, that transition to shop life is a lot easier.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that is might as well structure the program to match where the students are going to after. So
Absolutely.
Definitely seems like a good selling point for ATDM. Tim, you said your hobby is additive 3D printing. That's been a hobby of yours for 10 years. I get the idea. I get the very basic idea of 3D printing, but tell me a little bit about additive manufacturing on a very basic level, and then kind of walk us through some of the main things that you're teaching, that you guys are teaching the students in these classes about the actual process of using 3D printing to make parts.
Oh, certainly. So, with 3D printing, obviously, you're taking some form of media, whether it be plastic or metal or composite material, resins, what have you, and you are taking your design. The software will put it into essentially just layers, slice it horizontally. And so each layer it will create, and then once it's done with that layer, moves up, does the next layer over and over and over again until you end up with your part. The really neat thing about doing it with additive versus a normal subtractive method is you have a lot less waste. A lot of times you're able to create geometries that may not be able to be created with subtractive manufacturing.
Explain that a little bit more. You can make geometries that aren't possible with subtractive manufacturing.
So-
That sounds interesting.
So with subtractive manufacturing, like machining, and if you can't touch it from the outside, you can't machine it. So if there's some sort of like internal cavity or void or something on the inside of a part, I have to be able to reach that from the outside. I have to be able to get a tool in there from the outside in order to create that. Whereas with additive, because you're making it layer by layer by layer, you can have a fully encapsulated void or pocket or something on the interior of your print that can't be reached otherwise. There are certain geometries, even on the outside of a part, if it's a very intricate part. Again, if I can't figure out how to fit this long, straight, tool in there to create that without hitting another part of the material, I can't make that then. Whereas with additive, I can. So it's a really, for me, it's a really exciting technology to learn and be a part of, because I feel like the only thing I'm limited by is my imagination.
To continue off that thought, all of the intricacies that additive manufacturing has, there's just the same as any other process. There's different tricks, hiccups that you're going to fall into as you go through the process. And that's the main thing that we're teaching these students, is how to look out for those trouble spots in any part and how to overcome them. That's one of the biggest challenges, the biggest hurdles to overcome, is to learn how to think in that 3D space, being able to overcome those troubles and figuring out an efficient way to get your end result the way it should be.
Absolutely. Another thing that we go over is specifically, which is essentially what Daniel was just talking about, is design for additive. There are a lot of geometries or aspects of parts that they are there specifically because of the method that they are made in. Whether you have like an injection molded piece of plastic, they're going to put certain geometries on there in order to make it easier to separate from the mold. Or if they want to have less material, so that way they don't, they're not having to make as inexpensive of a part, you'll have like a big open space on one side. Whereas with additive, we can vary the inside structure of the part to where we can still have a full size part, no weird cutouts or missing bits, but still be able to reduce the amount of plastic and material in there if it doesn't need it. So that's another thing, that we teach about, is how can we break away from the norm, essentially, of making things and actually design for the process that we're using. Because a lot of people, honestly, when they start getting into additive manufacturing and 3D printing, they think it's just CNC subtractive, but in reverse. We're building up, we're not cutting away, but there's a lot more to it than just that.
That's my understanding of exactly what you just said when I talk about it. It's subtractive, you're tearing down; additive, you're building up. So now I'm learning the more to it. A few episodes ago we had a couple of the guys from the Maritime Industrial Base to talk about the work happening in the CMA with additive manufacturing and how they're basically creating those recipes for how to do the 3D printing for these parts. From your guys' perspective, and I think Daniel, you especially having worked with NASAM as well, you saw it from the Navy, from the active duty Navy side. What are you guys seeing as far as how is additive being used in industry today, and like kind of what kinds of parts are you guys training students to be able to go make? And I mean, not specifics parts, but like what types of things?
Generally now, additive is touching every industry that's out there. whether it's medical for implants or medical for tissue repair. There's the actual industrial mechanical parts that military is using, aerospace. It's all over the place now. The main thing that additive is being used for, especially on the military side, is for a direct replacement for parts that they can't actively get now. Whether the part was in the supply chain before and now is no longer being produced, or it was a part from a really, really old manufacturer that's no longer in business. Whatever the situation is, they're using additive manufacturing to reproduce and copy these parts that they no longer have access to.
Another thing that I've noticed is, additive is great for rapid prototyping. Again, when I was working back at Norfolk Naval, like we had a specific group. They were the Rapid Prototype Lab. That's where the couple of 3D printers that they did have in the shipyard at the time, that's where they lived, because anytime you had an idea for something and you needed to quickly try to make that item, that's where you went, and those were the tools that they used. So that's also part of what we try to teach in additive here, is we try to give them a little bit of freedom to think outside the box, try to come up with something new, and go through iterations, because nobody's going to have the perfect answer to the question right off the bat. You're going to have to print something out, see if it breaks. If it does, okay, how can we stop that? And go through the whole process, which additive is absolutely perfect for helping companies do that. And then another way that we are seeing the industry really embrace additive is in more of your exotic materials. One of the printing methods that we have is the Meltio system. So it prints in metal, and when you have a more exotic metal, say like titanium, for example, if I can print a part out that's almost the exact thing, because the printers aren't precise enough to get it 100% correct. But if I can print it, say, 80 to 90% correct, and then use traditional machining to get it the rest of the way, I'm only wasting maybe, what would you say 5-10%
Right.
the amount of material versus normal subtractive methods, which means I don't have half the money that I spent on that material going out in the waste bin now. I only have a fraction of that cost going out in the waste bin. So there's more money in the company's pocket. There's more money hopefully in the machinist's pocket or the additive technician's pocket, for the same product essentially.
And I know, yeah, as you said, it's Daniel. It's in every industry. And I know you guys
Absolutely.
are more focused on the industrial part of it and the more traditional parts. You're not working in medical or anything like that. But yeah, you can. I know there's whole rabbit holes you can go down with that and all the things they're trying to 3D print.
I don't know if we can name brands for you, but Invisalign braces, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
3D printed.
Yep.
They're 3D printed on resin printers.
Did not know that.
Yep.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, 3D printed steaks, like ribeyes, now that you can get. They're really expensive, but they're apparently really good.
I wish you could see my face, listeners. Trying to understand how that works.
So something maybe a bit more appetizing. You can actually get now 3D chocolate printers. They print in chocolate, so you can make some really cool custom chocolates at home. In all kinds of different shapes, sizes, and fill it with all kinds of nifty things. You want to make like a little Easter bunny that when you break it open, sprinkles go flying everywhere. You can do that.
And I've seen the chocolate printers used quite a bit for cake decorating.
Yep.
For like little roses or other types of decorations.
So when are we going to get some of those in the ATDM lab?
As soon as you buy them.
What's y'all's favorite part of being instructors for this program?
So for me personally, I've always enjoyed helping other people and helping people progress. That's just something that I can, I can do every day while I'm here with ATDM. Constantly helping people learn new tips, new tricks, learning new processes, new ways to think about things, constantly being able to change somebody's perspective on something to be able to get a job done, but even more efficiently than they would have thought would have been possible. That's just something that I really enjoy and very, very glad that I can be able to do that every single day.
For me, I would have to say my favorite part is the light bulb moment. When I am instructing somebody and I'm trying to teach them a whole new process or a whole new way to think about something, and you can see it in their eyes where they're trying to fit these mental puzzle pieces together, and when it all finally does just kind of click together, you can see it on their face when that light bulb goes off. That feeling of giving someone that when that moment happens, such a great feeling. I love that. I live for that. Mm-hmm. So and then like Daniel was saying, helping somebody learn a whole new skill that they can not just have a job but have a career out of. And yeah, I get to go home knowing hey, I helped make that happen. And then on top of it, because I deal in not just additive, but, part of our curriculum is also some subtractive work as well. I get to not only help people better themselves, but I get to do two of my favorite things while I'm doing it. And then on top of that, they pay me money for it. I'm living the life. That's my favorite bit.
It sounds like you guys got good gigs, and it sounds like we got some passionate instructors in here, so I love it. Tim, you just mentioned the light bulb moment. I would imagine that's a big part of the answer to this last question. But what's kind of y'all's goal for every student that finishes the additive manufacturing track for ATDM? What's kind of your goal for each of those students who are finishing it?
Additive is still the new kid on the block when it comes to the industry. Companies are investing more and more every day, but there's still a fair amount of companies out there that haven't even bought into it yet. And so one of the issues that we've been having is getting a lot of students out into industry when there's potentially not enough additive jobs for them to get into. One of my goals is to try to instill enough drive and passion for it that they want to get out into industry. They know it's a little bit of an uphill battle for them because additive is so new, but they are hopefully looking forward to that more than dreading it. Because once more companies do get into additive and do get these things up and running, they're essentially already going to have the workforce there. They're going to have these people working for them already. It's just these people are waiting for the company to catch up to them. And so, yeah, they'll be shoe-ins for, the higher up additive spots, or they're going to be able to shine as employees for these companies. And so that's not just imparting the actual education and knowledge, but for me, that's what I try to do is find that passion in all of the students and try to, get that to grow.
My answer to the question would be very, very similar to what Tim has said. The main goal that I see with these students, that I would like to see from these students, is to have enough, like Tim said, drive, initiative, and just excitement for the entire additive process. Enough for them to be able to search for a job. Mm-hmm. Now, as Tim said, there's not very many out there right now. Additive is a slow-growing field, but it's speeding up very fast. New technologies, new types of processes every day. I would like to see these students have enough initiative, enough drive to, if they can't find a job, make a job. Whether they take a job that just has a manufacturing position, something where they're just doing CAD design, just being able to 3D model things, and then try to push some industry or some business into the additive field to be able to make that business grow and be successful as they grow with that. That's just the main thing that I would like to see out of every student that comes through.
Yeah, no, as you guys were talking about that, I was thinking about I think we have it somewhere on our website or in somewhere on our marketing materials, the idea of we're training the workforce of tomorrow, that idea. And I never really thought about like what that means, because, you know, and especially with additive, I think it's fast growing, everyone's doing it. But that's interesting what you guys are saying, that like the companies are slower to catch up because it's a new technology. Obviously, it takes time to adopt these things. So yeah, that's cool. What you guys that grit that you guys are trying to put into your students and show them that they can go and make these jobs, as you said, 3D print the jobs, right?
And one thing that I've noticed about the industry is that it's less likely for a business to transition into additive more so than it is for a business to begin with additive. So there's new company startups that are doing strictly additive as their main source of production versus companies that have been around, businesses that have been around for 50 plus years that have been doing it a certain way for so long that they're almost scared to get into the new technology, scared that they don't know what they're going to get into, scared they're going to do it wrong and not be successful.
Right. You know, they're scared to invest the money without knowing that they're going to get a good return. So yeah, because they're already established, they can afford to wait a bit, make sure this isn't a fad or a trend. You know, they can afford to kind of wait it out a little bit and let some other people be the pioneers, let them fall on their face if that's what happens. But I think more and more companies, whether brand new or well established, they're all seeing that additive is sticking around, and there's way more pros than cons to it. So they're all starting to really get geared up. At the last job fair we had, I actually had 2 companies that I've talked to occasionally, you know, because they usually send the same people, so, you know, I get to see them on occasion. 2 of the companies specifically sought me out and were asking me how many additive students I had that were looking for jobs, because not only did they finally get additive put into those companies, but they wanted people like today. So yeah, companies are getting hungry for people.
Had someone just today asking the same thing. Me and Tim were talking about that just not even an hour ago, about wanting students to come and work for them.
Anybody who is over the age of 18 would like to come learn additive manufacturing, you can come to the ATDM program, learn from Tim or Daniel, depending on what shift you end up in. They're obviously great, passionate instructors, very knowledgeable about additive, and as they said, this is a growing field. For companies, you can ATDM has industry sponsors positions where you can send people through the program as a conditional hire. So there's options for companies and businesses that are looking to add employees, and there's options for people who are looking to learn these skills and get out in the field. So that's all the questions that I have for you. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk today. I know this is ATDM's cool. The longer I'm here, I'm like, yeah, ATDM's a really, really cool program, and there's lots of different angles to that. Any other thoughts that you guys would want to share?
For me, you know, you're absolutely right. ATDM is really cool. Getting to be one of the few people who have seen both sides of it, you know, not just as a student, but also as the instructor. For me, it's just as cool being here either way. I have a ton of fun. I had fun while I was here as a student learning, and I have a ton of fun here as an instructor, and you don't find that too many places. So yeah, I'm stoked. I'm happy.
The same thing for me. It was fun. It was exciting while I was here as a student, but it's just even better now as an instructor, being able to give that excitement to someone else. It's just a whole new way of taking your hobbies and being able to work for it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Megabytes, ILR's on-site cafe features everyday favorites, convenient ordering options, and an eager staff ready to welcome and serve you. Our enticing menus offer something for everyone, from a fresh, well-stocked salad bar, wraps, sandwiches, and our rotating hot buffet offered on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Megabytes is open Monday through Friday from 9:15 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. To view menus and for more information, visit ilr.org/megabytes.